Live from the George R. Brown Convention Center in Houston, Texas, this is the 2022 Texas GOP Convention, and I am Bunker Bob, and I am glad to have you with me today because this is the opening of our great convention in the great state of Texas, and there's a lot going on this week. And I've been here since Monday. If you've been following my coverage of the Legislative Priorities Committee, you understand what's been going on and kind of some of the things that have been taking place. And so you know already that a lot has occurred, and we've got some great legislative priorities that have made it to the finals. And I'm honestly thrilled with what they are. Those legislative priorities are, let me just read them quickly. So there's 15 legislative priorities that the delegates behind me will be voting on, and those of those 15, the top 8 that delegates select are going to be our legislative priorities. And so both the Legislative Priority Committee for this convention and we have a Legislative Priority Committee with the State Republican Executive Committee. That's the committee that basically does the work between conventions. This morning in Senate District 2, we elected Bruce Bishop, who hails from Dallas, and Jerry Fisher. I had to, her name escaped me for a second, but Jerry Fisher was elected by acclamation. She had no opposition. She's worked on the legislative priority or platform committee for the SRAC. She's done an amazing job there, and it's good to have her. Jerry's in Rockwall. And so the caucus, our Senate District Caucus number 2, voted for Alma Garcia, Alma as vice chairman. So we'll see what the whole convention, how the whole convention works out with that. So that's one of the things that we focused on. Well, the legislative priorities, and these are important because this is what we're going to be asking our state legislature to emphasize and to ensure that we get these things passed. And these are in order of the committee's choice, priority choice. And this is the committee's choice. Doesn't mean that delegates are going to follow this. Again, the top 15. So delegates are going to get to choose their top 8. And once that happens, those are going to be our legislative priorities. Those legislative priorities include protect our elections, bar Democrat, and protect our elections obviously through voting. Obviously, establish closed primaries in Texas is part of that, where Democrats or Republicans, if you want to vote, whenever you register to vote, you actually will have to declare whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat in advance. So when you receive your voter registration card in the mail, it will say you will vote in the Republican primary or you will vote in the Democrat primary. You will no longer, if this were to move forward, you will no longer be able to just on election day choose which party you want to vote for. So that's a very good thing. It's something that we've been pushing for a while, and it's become more and more of a problem as time has progressed. Okay, so that's another thing. One of the issue. The other issue is restore federal penalties and enact civil penalties for election code violation, which shall be enforceable by any Texas jurisdiction, including the Texas Attorney General. Now, the reason why this is important, this is still part of that first legislative priority, is because people violate election law all the time. The reason I'm not mayor of McLennan-Chisholm anymore is because people violated the election law. And there was nothing that the DA wanted to do, nothing that or really could do because there's no penalties in it. It's shocking, but that's where we are. It goes on, require citizenship verification of each voter. Seems obvious, but it's not established yet. Restrict the distribution of mail-in ballots to only disabled military and citizens that are out of state. Bob Hall talked about this. He said that we need to push away from convenience and toward security. We need to be less focused on convenience and more focused about election security, which is exactly what this does. And as technology evolves, we encourage the passage of legislation that ensures the security of our election. That's number one. Protect our elections. Now, all of these are not as long, but ban Democrat chairs. Bottom line, what happens, and this is not the second one, this I think has got to get passed, because anything beyond this point, if we cannot do this, then our legislative priorities are really useless. And so ban all Democrat chairs. What happens is the person who wants to be speaker basically will make a deal with the Democrats and say, I will give you guys chairmanships of committees, because the Speaker of the House, who is elected by the body of the House, gets to appoint the chairs of each committee. And so they will basically make deals with Democrats. And so when a chair of a committee gets to decide the agenda. So if they don't like something being on the agenda, they can push it out. They can make it essentially impossible to move that piece of legislation. In fact, every legislative priority that did not succeed in the last session was in committees with Democrat chairs. It's a huge issue. So we want a rule that will prohibit the election of a speaker or allowing the speaker to give chairmanships of committees to Democrats. Now, I want just think about this for just a second. Would Democrats, if they had control of the Texas House, do you think that they would give even one chairmanship to a Democrat or to a Republican? Heavens no. Of course not. So this is an important legislative priority for sure. The third one is really everyone's first, but we understand that if we can't protect elections, if we can't protect our committees, House committees from Democrat control, then everything else goes out the window. But the third one is abolish abortion in Texas. That goes without saying. So with Roe v. Wade, if it is going to be overturned by SCOTUS, by the state Supreme Court, well then they will basically we will be able to ban election in Texas, and that's a really important, abolish abortion in Texas. The next one is a real hot button issue, and that is eliminate property tax. So you can see what a priority this is for those of us here in Texas. Let's get rid of property taxes. I'm a fan of the Huffines plan, and I think, and it's interesting that Senator Betancourt came to the Legislative Priority Committee talking about all of the things that he was successful in doing. He's a Republican, and he was successful in doing in lowering our taxes, and so anyone's homestead is going to get a tax the tax rate is going to, or their tax bill is going to lower. Is what he's arguing. It won't happen until next year, but it's going to come down, is what he's saying. But when asked about whether or not he supported the abolition of property taxes, he made it very clear. I will say this: there was nothing about what he said that showed any real support for doing that. So that's a tough sell. And so when you have senators who are opposed to this, Republican senators, that really is challenging. The next one was stop sexualizing Texas kids. Boy, this was a hot button issue on the committee. We had there was a lot of testimony, as you saw if you watched my coverage of the committee. You saw a lot of testimony about this, and it's basically calling for a repeal of Texas Penal Code obscenity exemption 43.24C, which allows children access to harmful, explicit, or pornographic materials, and another one which allows sexual performance by a child. In addition, prohibit teaching, exposure, and or discussion of sexual matters, mechanics, feelings, or orientation or gender identity issues, and prohibit use of provision of related books and other materials using criminal, civil, or other enforcement measures. So that is of the top 15. That is your number 5. Number 6 is protect the electric grid, a big hot button issue for Senator Bob Hall. In fact, if memory serves, Bob Hall is actually at this convention. I'm pulling open the convention program, but he has a theater, basically, or a film that he is offering. He's doing it. It's several times, and it is Mind Polluters. Oh, okay, that's about the sexualization of kids. But the electric grid is one of another one of Bob Hall's top priorities. One of the things that Senator Hall did for us, his was the only Senate district that had breakfast served, and he paid for that. You got to understand, folks, Senator Hall is not rich, and his campaign doesn't pay for it. He pays for it, is my understanding. That says something. The other thing to remember, and that's very important for those of us who are in Senate District 2, in the Rockwall area, or now in Dallas, I guess we've got it's actually majority Dallas, the district is. But it is important to understand that Senator Hall and Brian Slayton are the only two Republican legislators that attended the Legislative Priority Committee meeting, the Platform Committee meeting, and the Rules Committee meeting. Not only did they attend, they participated. They participated in the subcommittee's work, and so this was a. I mean, it tells you everything. Bob Hall is. Some people don't respect Senator Hall. Some people don't respect Brian Slayton, because they're true conservatives. And this is the problem in Texas. Conservatives are vilified and demonized. Conservatives have a hard time, frankly, true conservatives. And what is a true conservative? Let me be very clear about what a true conservative is. A true conservative is someone who adheres to the Republican Party platform. So if I call myself a Republican conservative, I'm saying that I adhere strictly to the Republican platform. So if, and I do this all the time with people. I ask them when they say, "Well, I'm a conservative." Okay, I want you to read this platform. Is there anything in here that you don't agree with? Because that will determine whether or not you are in fact a conservative. But Bob Hall, Representative Brian Slayton. Only two people that were here. Why? Because they believe in this process. They understand that what you're seeing, what you're seeing behind me, the people that are here. This is the grassroots. This is the party. And the problem is most of those state representatives and state senators, they're not here. They're not here because this is not important to them. The people who really make this party work are not important to them. The few state reps, the few state senators that understand how important this body is, they're here. They're participating. The fact that Senator Hall and Brian Hughes were here for all of these committee meetings says a lot. So I'm very proud to be from Rockwall. I'm very proud to be in SD too. I wish Brian Slayton were our representative. Brian Hughes is another great representative. So we've got a lot of great representatives, don't get me wrong, but it does say something about the fact that they were here and these others were not. So, and you know what? I think I just lost the. Oh, wait a minute. Let's pull up that committee report. And I while I was talking, I was using this, and I accidentally moved this out. Let me pull it up open because I want to basically report on the legislative priorities. I want to be accurate as I can, and bear with me. What did I do with that? I apologize. This is a little embarrassing, and I don't. Here it is. All right. Golly. Okay. I apologize for that. Okay. So, all right. So we've got. Securing our protecting the electric grid. Boy, I got off topic and went off on a rabbit trail. But protecting the electric grid. Let me put this down because I keep messing with it. But protecting the electric grid, as we all know from Snowmageddon, how vital our electricity is in Texas and how fragile it is. And so protecting our electric grid should be a top priority. To ensure the health and safety of our state. We're the only state, by the way, who provides its own power. So this is why it's such a hot button issue and why it's so important. So protecting the electric grid is one of the top 15 legislative priorities that will go before delegates. Ban gender modification of children. Texas must ban chemical castration. Excuse me. Puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, genital mutilation, bodily alteration surgery, psychological social transitioning, and other methods applied to or performed on children specific for gender modification. So this is crazy that we actually have to even do this. I'm shocked, frankly, that this is even a thing, but it is, and so that's kind of one of the keys here. Secure the border and protect Texans. So that is a legislative priority for sure that we all need to get behind. Parental rights and educational freedom, giving parents the right to choose where their children go to school and allowing the money to follow the child. There's been a lot of debate about that. But those who care about education, truly care about education, believe in this. And those who say they believe in education, who are opposed to it, and the reason I'm using it that way, and I realize if you're opposed to school choice for the reasons, what are the reasons you're opposed to it? You're opposed to it because you're afraid. You're afraid of government strings. You're afraid of what could happen, how that could impact the schools. That you're taking money away from schools. That's the most interesting one. You're taking money away from schools, as though there is a correlation between money and excellence in education. Folks, there's no correlation. The more money we have put into education, the more our schools have failed. So to make these arguments is not intellectually honest. We need to provide some competition to the public schools. And when public schools, when parents have a choice, when they can take the money that they invest with their taxes for education and move that over to a private school, great. Or they're homeschooling their kids, they can put that money toward books, great. What this does not do is it doesn't allow a parent, if you want to go to a private school that costs $40,000, you're not going to get $40,000. No, the idea behind this is you'll get a tax credit, or you'll get a voucher for the amount of money that you're paying in already. So the cost, and most people who pay property taxes, and by the way, an overwhelming majority of property taxes goes to your independent school districts, the ISDs. Very little money will come out of the school system. So these arguments are just fraught with problems. Protect medical freedom. I think to me this is one of this should be a legislative priority that we adopt. And even though I don't think it's in the top 8 on the committee, I do think it should be one of those, because medical freedom. No hospital, no doctor should be able to prevent you from coming and seeing and being with your family. Now the convention is about to start, and so I'm going to hand it over to there. And this is Rafael Cruz. Senator Cruz's father is on deck.
Bless you. We exalt your holy name, Father. We thank you, Lord God, for the privilege of being Americans and the double privilege of being Texans and living within the greatest state in the greatest country on the face of the earth. Father, I pray, Lord God, that as we go through these days, Father, we will remember, Lord God, what America was like before the nightmare we're living today. And we pray, Lord God, that we will come out of this convention energized to retake America again and to make sure that Texas remains bright red and America remains that shining city on a hill to the glory of God. Use each and every one of us, Father, to awaken Texans and awaken America for your glory in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Amen. What a great American Rafael Cruz is.
Welcome, Julie.
Really, I'm a huge Rafael Cruz fans. Now we're going to the Pledge of Allegiance, I believe. This is the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great rendition of the
join me in saying the pledge to the flag of the greatest nation on God's green earth. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hooah!
Please remain standing and join Texas Representative Ryan Guillen in the Texas Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in pledging to the flag of the greatest state in the Union. I pledge allegiance. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, a little bit of a of a mess up there. That's okay. You get on stage, that can be very that can be a very difficult thing, and so you got to give the guy a break. He's nervous, even though he's a state rep. It's not the first time something like that has happened to I've done things like that, and so I'm sure all of us have. We're all human, so that's I thought it was kind of a fun little break from the monotony of perfection. So as we continue, what we're doing in the general session this morning right now is we are going to be listening to a lot of speeches, and there's some video commercials that go on throughout as well, and so this is the kind of thing that happens at a convention, and that's what makes these conventions so much fun, frankly, for people like me who enjoys this kind of stuff. I do appreciate all of the things that the convention does, and I appreciate I just enjoy the whole process. And so one of the things, and I'm going to try to give you a look of the people that are here, kind of give you a sense of how many people are out here. I'm doing give you a good overview. There we go. This gives you a sense of the crowd that's here, and it goes back a good ways, and so you can kind of see that there is a great level of support for what's going on in our state. We have all of these people are here on their own dime. So with the way the gas prices are right now, this is a pretty big sacrifice, and so to have this many people here is pretty incredible. I did want to okay. Now, Rebecca Holland, the Texas Supreme Court Justice, is going to come up, and so we'll listen to what she has to say.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Huddle. It's been my honor to serve you and all of Texas as a justice on the Supreme Court of Texas for the past year and a half. Governor Abbott appointed me to serve as a justice in 2020. Before that, I spent over 20 years in Houston practicing law and working as a justice serving Texans on Houston's first Court of Appeals, where I decided thousands and thousands of appeals and wrote hundreds and hundreds of judicial opinions deciding civil and criminal cases. Those are some of the qualifications you would read if I were to hand you a copy of my resume. That's not what I want to do. I want to tell you something about the Rebecca Huddle you don't get to see by reading a piece of paper. One of the things I'm proud to say is that I'm the first native of El Paso ever to serve as a justice on the Supreme Court. I'm proud to be from El Paso. That is where I grew up. That is where my mom, a single mother who raised 5 children after our father passed away by herself, that is where she shaped our values. That is where she turned us into the people we are today. So I want to share with you 3 of the most important lessons my mom showed us in our lives. Number 1, strong work ethic. Mom taught us every bit of work you do it as best as it can possibly be done. You do every bit of work you do with personal integrity. Number 2, you love this country. Mom herself was an immigrant from Mexico. She came here legally, and she was never more proud than on the day she earned her U.S. citizenship. Until her dying days a few years ago, she taught us we were never to forget, we were always to remember how lucky we are to have been born on American soil in the land of freedom and opportunity. And third, she taught us to have servants' hearts. She taught us the moment you are able, the moment an opportunity presents itself, you find a way to serve others, to serve your community, to improve the state you live in. Those are the values my mom taught me. Those are the values my husband Greg and I have taught our daughters. Those are the values I bring with me to the Supreme Court every day when I go to work. I'm on the ballot this November. I would be honored to earn your vote and earn your support. I'd be more honored if each of you is a leader in your communities. I'd be so honored if you went back home, told your family, your friends, your neighbors that I've earned your support. If you want to learn more about me, please visit RebeccaHuddle.com. If you want an easy way to remember who Rebecca Huddle is, what I stand for, remember this. Come this November, we will huddle up and win this election. Thank you, and God bless you.
Rebecca Huddle did a great job, I think, of giving the delegates a great and inspiring speech. So that was awesome. I enjoy these types of things.
I have been so looking forward to being with you here today. My name is Evan Young. I am one of your justices on the Texas Supreme Court, and it is my great honor to be the Republican Party's nominee to stay on the Supreme Court with your help. And you all are here as the people of Texas, representing the people of Texas. And I want to talk to you for a few minutes about why the people should care about who your Supreme Court justices are and how your Supreme Court does its job. Now, I come as a former law clerk to Justice Antonin Scalia. And Justice Scalia was a great American. He was a great judge, and it is an honor for this state that he lived his final day on this earth in Texas before he was called home to be with the Lord. But I learned from him how to be a judge who understands the difference between making the law what we want and telling the people what the law actually is. I saw Justice Scalia do that every single day that I worked with him, sometimes literally sweating and sometimes reaching results that he hated. But it's because he knew that his job was not to rule the people of this country, and it's not my job to rule the people of this state. Now, the people of Texas created a judiciary, and sometimes people forget that the judiciary is just another part of the government. And the people created the judiciary just like they created the other parts of the government, and the judiciary derives all the power that it has from one source only, and that is from the people. And why the people should care about their judiciary, why they should care about their Supreme Court, is that the kind of judiciary that you have will determine the kind of state that you live in as well. Because the judiciary can do one of two things. Either we can do our jobs faithfully and honestly to facilitate self-government by saying what the law is, and that if you don't like it, you can change it. That's what the other two branches of government are for. Or, and we've seen this happen across American history, judges can undermine self-government by taking to themselves the raw power to make the law into what they want it to be. And Justice Scalia used to say that a judge who always happens to discover that the law is just what he wants it to be is probably not a very good judge. I'm here to promise you that as long as you allow me to serve on your state Supreme Court, I will do my best to ensure that if anyone attempts to use power of the government to take the liberty from any citizen of Texas, that the judiciary will be there to say, show me where in the Constitution of Texas that authority comes from, and show me a valid statute that allows you to do that. And I'm here to promise that as long as I'm a justice on the Supreme Court, I will work every single day to facilitate the rule of the people of Texas by the people of Texas, to allow the judiciary to serve the people by doing the important but limited job that you, the people of Texas, created the judiciary to do in the first place. So thank you so much. My name is Evan Young. I would welcome your support. I wish you would visit my website, justiceevanyoung.com. I would appreciate it if you would go back to your homes and talk to the rest of the people of Texas and share our message of the rule of law and the proper role of the judiciary, so that the people of Texas remain the greatest self-governing people in the history of planet Earth. Thank you so much.
A really good, another good speech by another really fired up Supreme Court justice. So that's again, we've got some great people who are serving us in the great state of Texas, and so we're blessed, frankly. So.
Good morning. How are y'all today? Who is ready for a win in November? The Texas Federation of Republican Women are definitely ready for a win, and with 10,000 women strong in 162 clubs across our great state, we are leading the way for that win. For those who are not familiar with our organization, we have three main objectives. The first is electing Republican candidates. The second is educating the public through political and legislative education. The third is to promote the policies of the Republican Party. And the next is increasing the effectiveness of women for the cause of good government. While we are a women's organization, we welcome men as associate members, and we value their input and support. For those who are not members, we encourage you to join us, especially during these unprecedented times. TFRW provides the resources to help you be successful in unlimited ways, to make a difference, and to grow your own talents. If you care about your community, if you care about our candidates, if you are considering running for yourself, then, or if you want to network with some truly amazing women all across the state, then we invite you to join TFRW. We are for you. We do invite you to stop by our booth in the exhibit hall, or to check out our website, tfrw.org, to learn more about us. And guess what? If there's not a TFRW club in your area, we can help you start one. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of a battle between good and evil for our country and our state, and we must lead with, well, in this battle, and recruit others to fight with us for our conservative values and for the great principles of our Constitution. Texas is the beacon of hope and freedom for America, and we must guarantee that it remains that hope. The nation is counting on us as the last line of defense. There's no time for anything else besides uniting and achieving Republican victories up and down the ballot this fall. Join TFRW and become part of an organization that is not only working hard for today, but also for a better future. The expression, as Texas goes, so goes the nation, is not just an expression. America is counting on Texas Republicans, and we must deliver. Each of you here today are leaders, or you would not have taken the time to be here this week. So as leaders, I ask you to help in 3 ways. 1, now that our primaries are over and our candidates have been selected, we must demand unity all across our state, from the north to the south, to the east to the west. Thank you. The consequences of losing in November are unacceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, if we aren't the party in power, then we will not accomplish anything, and we could lose everything. So second, to those who ran for office but were unsuccessful, we thank you for your desire to make a difference and applaud you for your efforts. We look forward to you all helping us again in November and bringing your experience and your enthusiasm to those November races. 3, we have an incredible opportunity to attract new voters to the Republican Party, whether they be independents or those who are fleeing the Democrat Party. I challenge you to not lose sight of this moment. We must welcome these voters and remind them that Texas is so worth fighting for. And we have to get them to the polls in November for a resounding victory in November. I don't have to tell you, I think you all know that Texas is the greatest place in the country to live, to work, and to raise a family. And the Texas Federation of Republican Women is proud to lead the way in the fight for our great state. And I ask you to join us as we show the Democrats what strong Texas look like, and as we fight to defend our freedoms. Thank you, and God bless Texas.
That is the head of the Texas Federation of Republican Women, focusing on things that are important to a lot of Texans, and obviously one of the things that she said that it resounds with a lot of us Texans is the idea that as Texas goes, so goes the nation, which is certainly true. We lead the way, and we need to continue leading the way as best we can. So and Maya Flores is. Sorry. I'm not sure who this is coming up, but we'll see who this is now.
Good morning, Houston. Let me be clear, the red wave is here. My name is Cassie Garcia, and I'm honored to be with all of you today. I am running for Congress for the 28th District of the state of Texas, and I'm running to defend faith, family, and freedom. There's some folks, let's call them Democrats, who are shocked to see someone like me on a stage like this. These are the same people who were stunned when Donald Trump won the White House in 2016. These are the same people who are astonished to see my good friend, Myra Flores, flip a blue district red just 3 days ago. These are the same people who couldn't believe I worked for Ted Cruz for nearly a decade in South Texas. They say things like, Cassie, You're a Latina who lives in South Texas. How can you be a Republican? And these days, I only shake my head and say, how can you not be? How can you not be a Republican when you watch the Biden administration declare war on the oil and gas industry in my district? Even as gas prices soar, how can you not be a Republican when you see Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's assault on our God-given rights? How can you not be a Republican when you see what the Biden administration has done to weaken America's borders? The border isn't abstract for me. Every single county in my district is on the border, and I've seen what's going on there with my own eyes. I hear the fears of landowners and ranchers. I talk to moms and dads who are worried about the flood of drugs and violence and chaos. I talk to our brave Border Patrol agents who feel like no one has their back. I hear the frustration and pain in their voices. They're tired of the Democrat Party stopping the border wall. They're tired of the Democrat Party promoting catch and release. They're tired of the Democrat Party ending the Remain in Mexico policy. They're tired of the Democrat Party pretending like this problem doesn't exist or is too big to fix. They're tired of Henry Cuellar, who says all the right things but has done absolutely nothing to secure our southern border. Once, not very long ago, we had a president who was fighting to secure our border, build a border wall, defend our Border Patrol agents, and fix this problem once and for all. But you know what gives me hope? All of these people, my neighbors, the farmers, the ranchers, the Border Patrol agents, the moms, the dads, they aren't keeping quiet. Not anymore. The red wave is here. The red wave that sent Mayra Flores to Congress, the red wave that's going to send me to Congress. And that is the red wave that's going to send Nancy Pelosi packing. I am so proud to be with all of you today, and I'm grateful for everything you've done and everything you are doing. God bless you all. God bless this convention. God bless the state of Texas, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Well, that was a very impassioned plea to the southern border by an outstanding new face of the party, and who is really here to make some real changes. And so that's exciting to see people who are in largely Democrat districts, who grew up Democrat, who are surrounded by Democrats. And I love what she said when they ask her, how can you be a Republican? And her answer is, how can you not be a Republican? And this is the key. Most Democrats, especially Hispanic Democrats, in my opinion, they've never read the platform. They don't understand. I think our job as Republicans has got to be bringing out what it means to be a Republican, showing people the platform. I think this is the most influential thing that can truly change minds. Mays Middleton is now up and so we'll move it over to Mays.
This many grassroots conservatives that are the tip of the spear to go protect and defend our God-granted freedoms of life, liberty, and property. My name is Mays Middleton. I'm chairman of the Texas House Freedom Caucus. I'm also the Republican nominee for State Senator District 11, covering Harris, Brazoria, and Galveston counties. My wife Macy and I are blessed with 4 kids, 3 little boys, and our first girl who's about to be 1-year-old next week. Man, what a blessing our children are, but they are so humbling. This morning, Matthew, our 4-year-old, asked me to wipe his bottom, so they definitely keep you in check. But that next generation, that's a daily reminder of why we're here and what we're fighting for. Every single person in this convention center is worried about our future. Which God-granted freedom is Joe Biden, Beto, and the rest of the socialist left going to try and take away from us next? And you know what? Our future, it cannot be secure when there is a party in charge in Washington, D.C. that thinks it's a good idea for little kids to go to drag queen story time. And liberty, it can be won and it can be lost at every single level of government. The federal level, the state level, and the local level. And for too long, we as conservatives have not paid enough attention to the local level. George Soros and the Democrats and their large out-of-state donors have wreaked havoc in local elections in Texas. It was liberal local electeds that stopped this very convention here today 2 years ago because of Dr. Fauci's modeling. It was city council that defunded the police. It's cities and school districts that have sponsored Pride Week for small kids. And it was cities that had policies of sanctuary cities that protected illegal immigrants. It's liberal George Soros DAs that have policies of not prosecuting dangerous criminals at the expense of your family's safety. And radical left judges have let killers out again and again to kill again. And it is local government that is using your hard-earned tax dollars on Austin lobbyists to lobby against your conservative values. Those same taxpayer-funded lobbyists recently worked with the Biden administration to have concerned parents branded as domestic terrorists be investigated under the Patriot Act. They are treating parents and taxpayers like the enemy, and it must end. Democrats, they're endangering lives. Who feels less safe than they did 2 years ago? I think all of us. Socialist destruction is happening. So the question is, who's going to stop the radical left? If not us here today, then who? Then who? We are the ones to fight back, but we need the tools to do so. And one of those tools is the Candidate Resource Committee. The CRC supports and funds elections for conservative fighters in local government down ballot races. And I believe in the mission of the Candidate Resource Committee so much that every dollar raised here today, I will match.
Wow. He's going to match. He's going to match dollar for dollar every gift given.
And there are a few ways you can donate to the Candidate Resource Committee. You can pull out your phone and get out your camera and scan the QR code on the screen next to me. There's also a QR code in your program that you can scan, or you can find your SREC, your newly elected SREC member, and give them a check, or visit the CRC booth in the convention exhibit hall. There is only one party that represents the values that this country was founded on. Let's elect more people with those values on the local level, and the CRC can help do that. And I have confidence in this. I know that because of our shared convictions and our unique Texas grit, we're going to get to see Ronald Reagan's Morning in America again. And it will be Texas that leads the charge to take this country back. Thank you, may God bless you, and may God bless Texas.
Mays Middleton, who spoke on behalf of the Candidate Resource Committee to try and help young or new people to the party who want to run and giving them the financial support that they need. So, okay, Christy Craddock is up next, Texas Railroad Commissioner.
Well, good morning, and wow, it's a pleasure to see so many friends actually in person. I have to start by congratulating all of you. You the delegates, the alternates, the family, you worked hard to get here today. And I applaud you for standing up and speaking up for your conservative values. I respect you and I thank you for what you're doing. Did you know that I've been coming to Texas Republican Convention since I was 12 years old? For those of you with the babies, by the way, you started earlier. The one constant that time for every one of those 20 conventions, and look, you don't have to do the math today, don't figure out how old I am, right? But the one constant has been our deep and abiding love of Texas. We love our state. We love our state's values, our state's conservative values. We love our state's way of life. We are Texas Republicans. We are pro-God, pro-family, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-police, pro-border security, and pro-jobs. We are unapologetically pro-Texan, and we are pro-America. So the truth is, though, that these are the values that are under attack. With Joe Biden's agenda and George Soros's money, liberals are opening the border, vilifying and defunding the police, prioritizing foreign oil over our national security, changing the focus of our public schools from education to indoctrination, and trying to addict every state, county, city, and town to a steady flow of borrowed federal money. Why are they attacking us? It's simple. Because liberals hate Texas. They hate the fact that Texas succeeds. Because when we succeed, it proves that sound conservative policies and strong Republican leadership works. It drives them mad, doesn't it? That even when they rig the system against us with unnecessary regulations and political, pointless mandates, we still succeed. Texas still proves and powers the nation that we are creating the most jobs year after year after year. So try it sometime. Just mention Texas and watch a liberal just lose their mind. It's understandable, though. I almost feel sorry for them. Almost. Look, if we don't stand strong, if we don't stand united, liberals will build on the beachheads they've established in Austin, the crazy town, and our other cities. And we've already seen what that can lead to. Progressives on the Austin City Council are slashing police budgets. Activist judges and out-of-control liberal Democrat district attorneys are letting violent criminals out onto the street. The result? In Austin, the homicide rate skyrocketed last year. It's up 87% since 2020 alone. Austin police are stretched so thin, they are forced to tell citizens they simply can't respond to any crime that isn't directly life-threatening. And police will tell you that a non-life-threatening crime can become life-threatening in a heartbeat. And look, it's not just Austin. Back in the 80s, liberals in New York told police to ignore so-called victimless crimes. Sure enough, what they found was that misguided policy encouraged criminals and escalated crime. They found that petty crime invariably turns into violent crime. And here in Texas, with just a few cities and a few activist judges and DAs in power, violent crime is up across the state. This must stop. The Republican Party has never been more needed. It's never been more vital that we unite as a party and champion the same policies that have already made us great. We have to secure the border and ideally make Joe Biden pay for it. We have to respect the miracle of life, beginning at the moment of conception. We need to defend our kids in public schools, making sure that parents are in charge of children's education and not woke teachers and administrators. We need to address skyrocketing property taxes, but that can only be done through strong, conservative, Republican leadership starting at the municipal level. Liberal Democrats are only too happy to settle back and watch the money flow from your pocket into government coffers. This is a problem. And we have to get government out of the way so Texas Energy and the Texas energy sector can do what it does best. Create good jobs for Texans and power the nation and the world. Look, it's telling that with Russia out of the energy market, Biden seems to be more interested in doing business with Venezuela and Saudi Arabia than freeing Texas to do the job we're capable of, to help us provide global security through American energy production. Joe Biden is crippling the American energy industry with his Green New Deal policies, and it's hitting the American average families the hardest. Increased prices at the pump and the grocery store are a direct result of his failed leadership. Texas producers are ready, willing, and able to meet these challenges, but we need our own president to get out of the way. We learned a lot of great things from Ronald Reagan, things like growth, prosperity, fulfillment, and freedom follow from the bottom up, not from the government down. Now, that approach requires strong roots and a solid foundation. You are here today because you are that foundation. On your shoulders stand the elected representatives of our party and our state. It's becoming increasingly clear the fate of this country is tied to the vision and leadership and actions are tied to the state of Texas. From the bottom up, we're going to draw from the well of leadership. You are the strength and the courage on which this Republican Party has been built and stands, shining like a city on a hill. We need to take back the cities where the liberal Democrats have made inroads. We need all communities in Texas, including Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, look, if all possible, Austin, right? To be incubators of free market ideas instead of an echo chamber for liberal cities. It won't be easy. But Ronald Reagan never shied away from a tough fight. He had faith in the people and faith in God instead of faith in government. If you'll remember, Ronald Reagan inherited the biggest mess, certainly of my lifetime, from a one-term Democrat president and had to rebuild the national economy from the ground up. And I never thought I'd say something like this, but these days Joe Biden is making Jimmy Carter look like a success. Inflation, supply shortages, weakness on the world stage, rising interest rates. Do they honestly think it's just a coincidence that the second you put a liberal Democrat in charge, everything falls apart? We have to be ready to pick up the pieces when a Republican makes Joe a one-termer as well in 2024. If we are going to continue to thrive, Texas has no choice We have to lead. So let's lead. Let's lead like Reagan. Reagan was an optimist, and I am too. He saw promise in our fellow citizens, and I know you do too. We can't let the unrelenting attacks and the cancel culture from the left break our spirit. And looking around today, I know that's not something that's going to happen in Texas. Here, I see people ready to double down on what we stand for, what we fight for. Our work starts here in Texas to keep Texas conservative and red, led by accountable leaders who are optimistic and proud to do their jobs. Texas Republicans are proud to be leading and proud to be fighting for the future of our great state. Thank you, and God bless you.
Christy Craddock, the Texas State Comptroller, is had some great words for the delegates, and clearly that was well received. It was a little bit of a long speech. I'm not a big fan of the long speeches, and the thing about these conventions that does get a little old is you hear the same mantra of pro-America, what we need to do as a state. And I'd really rather the elected officials really kind of talk in their wheelhouse. Texas State Comptroller, I wish you would have focused more on what it is she and her office do to help make all of these platitudes possible. And that, I guess, is kind of a disappointment. There's really nothing she said that gave any indication as to how we're succeeding in that from her office. And we're here to hear from our elected officials for sure. But I wish they would really kind of focus less on the red meat pandering type of talk about the issues, God's guns. You get a little tired head when you have to sit in and listen to the same speeches, the same kind of speeches, because we want something new, we want something fresh. Another thing I wish the speakers would do is use more humor and self-deprecating humor, but also just humor about their work, and give some kind of move the audience a little bit with the speeches. And I think that everyone believes that you cite the name of Reagan, which she did. You talk about God, which she did. You talk about guns, she did. You really kind of get it just becomes a little bit tired. Okay, here's Wayne Christian. Let's see if he succeeds.
It's an honor to be with you today, and it's amazing that we in Texas are the ones the world looks to. Let me tell you real quick, with the Railroad Commission of Texas, you've had heroes, Christy Craddock, Jim Wright, that are my co-commissioners, heroes to stand up for Texas oil and gas and energy. By the way, Railroad Commission has nothing to do with railroads. Got that? It's oil, gas, and coal. It's 30% of your state budget. Listen to 30% of the state of Texas. 1 out of every 10 families makes their living directly or indirectly oil and gas. It's all our rainy day fund, all our permanent school fund is oil, gas, and coal. And ladies and gentlemen, it's what makes Texas Texas. And what's frightening is we have a president of the United States that has gone to war against us and our resources the good Lord gave us under the ground. Understand, we right now, just in West Texas, have the largest discovery of oil and natural gas in history. But Wall Street, through these ESG, environmental, social, and governance funds, have cut 90% of the financing for our oil and gas industry. We have these folks in Washington, D.C. can't figure why we have a president of the United States
that goes to Venezuela, goes to Saudi Arabia, and begs on his knees that we get oil and gas. So we're sitting here with the good Lord's gift of the largest find in history. And you wonder why they're doing that. Well, there's a plan. There's a plan to make sure that in the next decade, and he said this, Joe Biden has said over the next decade we will have shortages of food and shortages of energy. Understand when you see the price of gasoline going up at the pump like we've seen, and oil goes up, it ain't just gasoline, folks. It's over 6,000 products go up and their delivery. Do you know there's an agricultural product that comes from Russia that we're dependent on to start any diesel truck, any diesel engine in the United States? And a guy named Larry Fink, who is with BlackRock Financial and on the World Economic Forum with George Soros and Bill Gates and John Kerry and other great friends of democracy. And they're planning that in the next decade, when we're short on energy and food, that finally we come as a nation bowing to big brother government and say, oh, please feed us and please give us our rights. Let me tell you a couple of things that concern me. Let me brag on our legislature and our leadership. We've had one of the most conservative, accomplishing legislatures in history. And I commend the many good people, Mays Middleton and his group, that has done a tremendous job of keeping Texas in the conservative direction. We're sitting here with an opportunity today to have issues like we've been praying for years to do away with Roe versus Wade. We're sitting here with the opportunity we're looking at of this gender counseling they're giving our kids. All of these many issues which are very important. But let me say that there's one particular issue I think we're kind of not addressing in our platform, in our legislative priorities agenda, and that is the fact that we are about to see. I'm not a very bright person. I went to public education in Texas, okay? And it's public schools. And I was taught this thing called Maslow's hierarchy. Do y'all remember that? And what it talked about is all the great things that we're talking about and the good issues we're fighting. There's a couple of things that you got to have. It's food, clothing, and shelter before you have any of the above accomplishments. People don't listen to you if they can't eat and they don't have heating and cooling. And folks, right now, Joe Biden is saying, here, okay, we're going to shut down American energy. We're going to shut down that heating and cooling. And all of a sudden, Texas and Americans are dependent on Big Brother. Let me give you a real quick example. About 20 years ago, we in Texas, Republicans, passed something I think was an unwise bill. Believe it or not, we're good folks, but sometimes we make mistakes. And one of the big things I think we need to admit is when we make a mistake and correct our problem. We decided we wanted to be the wind capital of the world. And congratulations, we are. Okay? The last Texas Public Policy Foundation said the last 20 years, Texas taxpayers have paid over $66 billion to wind and solar. $19 billion of that, $1 billion a year, is from Texas taxpayers, the others from we federal taxpayers. So what we've accomplished that we're sitting here since Storm Uri. You remember that? I spent 5 days without any electricity. And by the way, the Railroad Commission does not regulate electricity. We do minerals, natural gas, oil, coal, uranium. That's what the Railroad Commission does. And by the way, for the Railroad Commission's benefit and the 900 employees statewide, which are run out of a lot of your friends and family across the state, 99.5% of the folks during Storm Uri that turned on the valve and needed gas got it. Got it. Texas delivered. The Railroad Commission did. But what wasn't there was wind and solar. Wind and solar prior to Uri was doing 28% of the electric grid. During Uri, it went down to 0 and 5% on wind and solar respectively. Natural gas went from 48% of your electricity to 70% of your electricity. Now, some of these folks, like the Houston Chronicle, says that, natural gas didn't produce as much during Storm Uri, so we do something about that. Correct. We didn't produce record numbers. It went up to 70% of your electricity, but that's not a record high in production. Yet how did Texas get 99% of natural gas during the storm in production? How did we distribute a record amount of natural gas? Because of the secret of winterization we have in Texas called underground storage. There's enough underground storage, folks, in the state of Texas to last all the gas needs in the state for 1 full month if we didn't produce a bit. That's Texas. Well, 20 years ago, we decided we'd be the wind capital of the world. Now, I want to ask you something. Are you for dirty, expensive, and rare, unavailable energy? Hold it. Y'all are not for all the above energy in Texas? Think of this, folks. We're sitting here needing reliable energy, and wind and solar went to 0 and 5%. Natural gas went up. Reliable energy. I did the little article in the Wall Street Journal, and basically I can summarize that pretty quickly. It's that we have spent so much time and dollar and energy on unreliable energy in Texas that we let the pilot light go out on reliable energy. Now here's the trick. Guess what's happened since Storm Uri? Unreliable energy, we have increased electric generation of wind and solar nationwide by 17%, so we have more unreliable energy you have paid for since Storm Uri. We have 0 new natural gas, 0 new nuclear, and we have decreased the coal reserves. So get this picture. Wind and solar couldn't do that when it was cold, provide us lights, and now we're being told to turn up our thermostats to 78 because they can't do it when it's hot. Yet since that storm, we have increased more unreliable, decreased reliable. Do you know that you're the only people in the United States that do not pay the lowest cost for your electricity? Why? Because 20 years ago, we decided we'd be wind capital of the world, and we got a deal that when wind blows or solar produces, natural gas shuts down, nuclear shuts down, and we have to buy wind and solar every time the wind blows or the sun shines. So you wind up paying an excessive cost for your electricity like nobody else in the nation. Folks, we need to fix that. There's a lot of problems we have, but God has given us the greatest state in the world. Let me tell you, I could go on way too long, and the last time I went overtime here at the convention was when I proposed this thing called legislative intent agenda that we had, and the leadership at that time, a decade ago, cut off the microphone during my presentation because they didn't want it, literally. Some of you will remember that. And in fact, after we then passed the legislative intent agenda, I went back to the legislature, and the rhinos in charge had redistricting and drew me an 80% new district and kicked me out. That's what you get for fighting the fight, folks. But guess what? God was kind of in a joke mood then, and I'm back. Well, okay, I know the Houston Chronicle published that I was not a Christian because I ain't for all this Green New Deal junk that the government's trying to give us. I believe the greatest scam on we the American people is this green good junk, okay? Well, let me tell you the answer to our problems. And this is where I know the Houston Chronicle said I wasn't a Christian, but I didn't know they had that level of authority, right? But there's a story that just moves me about Republicans. There was a president, John Quincy Adams, was the first president in history that once he served his term as president, he ran for Congress. And when he won Congress, he was quite the extraordinary gentleman, but every Tuesday was make a motion day for a bill in Washington. So every Tuesday you'd make your motions. Every Tuesday, ex-President John Quincy Adams would get on the stage and he would move to abolish slavery in the United States. And of course, didn't pass, wasn't going to pass, but it didn't stop him. Every Tuesday he'd get up and make the motion. The newspapers got up and said, President Adams, why with your career do you sit up there and become humiliated by being laughed at about making this motion? And he said this statement. He said, the work is ours, the results are God's. Now listen to this. During his tenure, there was a one-term congressman, and his name, you'll know in a second, but that congressman, really one term, was very used as a mentor, John Quincy Adams, very close. In fact, he served as a pallbearer later at John Quincy Adams' funeral. Well, a couple years later, there was this new group that came together and organized, and they were called the Republican Party. And they nominated this guy named Abraham Lincoln, who was the one-term congressman under John Quincy Adams. And just a couple years later, Abraham Lincoln signs the Emancipation Proclamation. Think of that. I want to ask you something from that. The work is whose? The results are you bet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the secret to the problems we have. We have opportunities like never before, but don't look combined in thinking we've won the fight. Texas is a blessed place. It's a place that we're protected. We don't see a lot of the bads. We see it on the news, but it couldn't happen here. Folks, couldn't happen here. It's happening here. And only by our faith to stand up. And people say, oh, I'm so discouraged. There's nothing I can do. I don't even watch the news. Oh, everything's so bad. Let me tell you something. The work is ours. That's not the option. That's why you're here. Let me close with this one. And you saw I'm a right-wing religious nut and proud of it. What's the promise we got from God himself? If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves, pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and what? Heal their land. Folks, I hope we have a healing, and it's a healing we need to turn to the Republican Party of Texas, the instrument God is using. You and me are the battlers that need to go out here and hit their communities and excite people to work for the kingdom of God. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you, and God bless Texas.
Okay, so someone was listening out there, and his name was Wayne Christian. He clearly heard what I was saying. I wish people would come up, talk about what they do in relation to their office, and that is exactly what he did. Okay, Rafael Cruz is coming back, so we definitely want to hear this. Love this guy.
Well, hello again. I tell you, I remember 1980. I was very involved in the Reagan campaign. My son Ted was 9 years old. And our conversation around the dinner table was always about why we had to get rid of this Marxist Jimmy Carter and replace him with a Constitution Christian conservative like Ronald Reagan. We would sit in front of the television to listen to Ronald Reagan's speeches, and my son Ted was mesmerized with Ronald Reagan. As a matter of fact, one of the first speeches that he memorized in part was A Time for Choosing, 1976 speech by Ronald Reagan. And as he entered high school, and throughout high school, as he gave speeches on free market economics and the Constitution throughout the state of Texas, he was absolutely certain that his life would be dedicated to public service. After college and law school, he went on to work as a clerk for Chief Justice William Rehnquist. He served as Solicitor General of Texas for 5.5 years, and he has been serving as your senator and mine for the last 10 years in Washington, D.C. Today, he is at the forefront of the battle to make sure that this Marxist administration in Washington, D.C. stops destroying America and to restore America to that shining city on a hill to the glory of God. Please help me in welcoming my son, Senator Ted Cruz.
The radical left hates their political opponents, and they condone violence as a means of getting what they want.
We saw a man arrested for attempted murder of a Supreme Court justice. That crime was actively encouraged by elected Democrats.
To tear down the Supreme Court, to tear down the independence of our judiciary, and fundamentally to tear down our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. This administration has managed to get every single policy wrong, from economic policy to domestic policy to foreign policy. In some ways, you have to marvel that they managed to screw everything up.
Big is bad across the board. Big government sucks. Big business sucks. Big tech, big Hollywood, big universities. Chinese communists and Elizabeth Warren, they both want to control you.
There should be no mandates. Zero. That means no mask mandates, no vaccine mandates. That means no vaccine passports.
If the only people with guns guns are the jackbooted thugs, then liberty is gone. What stopped armed bad guys is armed good guys.
Just 6% of Americans support unlimited abortion up until the moment of birth. That is the view of virtually every single Senate Democrat. They are radical and extreme. They want to sexualize little kids, teach kindergartners about sex, gay sex, straight sex. How about just no sex for 5-year-olds? The Democrats and the press, up is down, right is left, everything is backwards and upside down. Well, the New York Times suggested that there are multiple states in the Union that if they were allowed to would ban interracial marriage. What utter garbage. You bigoted, moronic, Manhattan, leftist, elite, lying sacks of crap.
Don't ever apologize to the woke mob. They want to destroy you. They want to silence you. They want to subjugate you. Laugh at them. It drives them bananas. The powerful are afraid. They are terrified of you. They look out at the men and women in this room and you scare the living crap out of them. They are afraid of truth. The great state of Texas. What an incredible gathering of patriots here to save the United States of America. We're gathered here today at an unusual time. In Washington, this isn't normal. The President of the United States shakes hands with people who aren't there. By the way, I have a theory. That was Harvey. I'm here today with a word of encouragement and hope and exhortation. Good to see you, sir. God bless you. First Amendment is a wonderful thing, and you're welcome to yell whatever the heck you want.
Love it. I love it. Someone's heckling and...
I'm here with two simple messages.
That's awesome.
Number one, it's in crisis. We all know this. You look at what's happening in Washington. The policies coming from Biden and Pelosi and Schumer. We got inflation skyrocketing. Price of everything going up. Price of food, price of lumber, price of homes, price of rent, price of electricity. Gas. Look, it's so bad. Antifa can't afford bricks. It's so bad. Swalwell can't afford Chinese dinners. You look at crime, we got crime skyrocketing across the country. We have murder rates skyrocketing. We have carjacking rates skyrocketing. You look at our southern border. The absolute chaos at our southern border. Over 2 million people in 62 years. You look at the supply chain. Shelves empty in the store. You can't find baby formula. which I got to say is a real practical matter, is a problem. What is Pete Buttigieg supposed to do on paternity leave? And then, as bad as domestic policy is, as bad as economic policy is, foreign policy is even worse. Every single region of the world has gotten worse. The enemies of America have all gotten stronger. We have the disgraceful surrender in Afghanistan to the Taliban, leaving Americans behind. And every enemy of America, they looked to the Oval Office and they took the measure of the man in the Oval Office. And tragically, they concluded that he is weak and feckless and ineffective. Now, some of y'all may be thinking, you know, Ted, you said you were going to encourage us. You really suck at this. But I told you I got two messages. And here's the second one. Revival is coming. My father's favorite scripture is from the book of Psalms. Weeping endures for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And I'm here to tell you that morning is coming. All across this country, people's eyes are opening up. You know, there's a natural pendulum sense to politics. Throughout the history of our country, one party gets in power, they go too far one direction. And the American people say, hold on a second, and they bring it on back. Other party gets in, they go the other way, the American people pull it on back. Every single dumbass idea that comes out of this White House, part of me grieves, but part of me quietly celebrates, because it's accelerating the process of changing the road we're on, of bringing this country back. I got to tell you, every Democrat in the country is terrified. From the dog catcher all the way up to the most powerful Democrat in the world, Joe Biden's handler. Listen, even Kamala Harris is getting restless. She just hired Nancy Pelosi's husband to be Joe Biden's driver. And we are going to see in November, it's not just going to be a red wave. It is going to be a tsunami. You look at the things that are opening up people's eyes. It's policies that make no sense. Listen, it takes crisis to reveal someone's character. You look at something like COVID, the COVID pandemic, and it's revealed the character of so many petty authoritarians all over the country who shut down small businesses, who destroyed jobs, shut down stores and restaurants and bars and gyms, who shut down churches, who shut down schools. We will look back at the idiocy of shutting down schools, many across the country, for over a year, and the harms to kids that are going to last with them their entire lives. You look at something like mask policies. It's important to understand this was always nonsense. Let's think about it on the face of it. Okay, what were the rules with masks? The rules with masks: when you walked into a restaurant, you must wear masks. because of science. When you sit down at the table, you take your mask off. Again, because of science. And actually, I've got a theory for that. The COVID vaccine and the COVID virus react to altitude. At 6 feet, COVID is deadly. Oh my God, go hide. At 3 feet, it is perfectly harmless. By the way, that explains why Fauci is safe. He's only 5 feet tall. All right, or let's take airplanes. All right, airplanes. What were the rules? The rules were you must wear a mask. Unless you have a peanut. In which case, take your mask off. Everything is fine. And again, there's a scientific basis for this. Peanuts cure COVID. Now, somewhere in the back, there's some reporter pulling out his notepad saying, oh, there you go again, misinformation. He's saying peanuts cure COVID. No, you numbskulls. I'm saying this was garbage, and it was always garbage, and everyone knew it was garbage from the outset. But it is powerful as people see this. Their eyes are opening up. Let's take culture. The Democrat Party has become socialists gone wild. Thank God, Bernie's not yet in a bikini. But if you look at their assault on culture, so I've got a podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We do it every week. When I did it on campus at the University of Alabama, I pointed out with woke corporate America that soon we were going to see Disney making movies with Mickey and Pluto going at it. Now, what I didn't understand is that Disney was apparently watching the podcast. And they decided to follow through on that. So we got their new movie, Buzz Lightyear, that features something that I never knew the world was missing. Lesbian toys. So their new movie, by the way, they fired Tim Allen, presumably because he wasn't interested in their propaganda. They replaced him, so they decided, okay, the movie's called Lightyear, literally about Buzz Lightyear. Let's fire the guy who plays Buzz Lightyear. Because our woke agenda is so important, get rid of that actor. You know, call me crazy, but do toys have to have sex? Like, this is not even a gay, straight thing. Like, just leave the kids alone. But you look at Nancy Pelosi just this week, who went on TV and said, drag queens are what America is all about. Did I miss that day in American history? Look, I understand that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson wore wigs. But I think it was a little different. And listen, consenting adults, you can do what you want to do. But this culture assault is driven by radical leftists who want to tear down America. They want to tear down the churches. They want to tear down our schools. They want to tear down our families. They want to tear down our faith. They want to tear down our values. And I'll tell you, they've gone so far that millions of Americans are looking at him saying, what in the hell is wrong with you people? You look at guns. Texas, once again, we saw the horrific shooting in Uvalde. I was there the day after that shooting. What that evil monster did, murdering 19 children, murdering 2 teachers, it is horrific, it is evil. And if we lived in a sane, rational world, we'd be coming together saying, how do we stop violent crime? We go after the criminals. We go after the felons. We go after the fugitives. We go after those with serious mental illness who try to illegally buy guns, and we put them in jail, and we lock them up, and we keep them out of our schools, we keep them out of our churches, and we keep our families safe. But what do the Democrats do? They don't want to go after the criminals. And I understand they got to take care of their base. They're not interested in making our schools safer. Joe Biden said, I don't believe in hardening schools. What the hell's wrong with you? Instead, inevitably, every time there's a mass murder, the response of the Democrats is to go after and try to take away the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. It doesn't work. It doesn't make people safer, and it is contrary to the Constitution, and I give you my word, anyone that tries to take away our Second Amendment rights, I will stand and fight to defend our liberties. We just had right here in Houston the National Convention of the NRA. And following that horrific mass murder, you saw the media and Democrats immediately start demonize the NRA. I'll tell you, I was proud to go and speak to the NRA. And what the media and Democrats say is a lie from the pit of hell. Because they try to blame law-abiding citizens who are defending their families and their children for the acts of horrific homicidal maniacs. And what's even worse is inevitably when you have one of these evil murderers, it is men and women exercising their right to keep and bear arms that stop those sons of bitches. People's eyes are opening up. We saw last year when Republicans won the governor's race in Virginia. We saw last year when we came within 2 points of winning the governor's race in New Jersey. And by the way, we beat the Democrat president of the Senate in New Jersey, longtime incumbent. The candidate was a Republican truck driver who spent $2,000. And did anyone happen to see what happened in South Texas this week? Myra Flores, Congresswoman Myra Flores. Over 100 years, South Texas has been a bright blue bastion. Although I'll tell you something my father says frequently down in South Texas. He points out, he says, listen, the Hispanic community, we've always been conservative. 50 years ago in Texas, Texas was a one-party state. It was a Democrat state. There were very few Republicans. This ballroom was about the size of waiting room in a Holiday Inn. But back when Texas was a one-party state, a Democrat state, there were two parties. There were conservative Democrats and there were liberal Democrats. And a point my dad's made in the Valley over and over again, Hispanics, we were always conservative Democrats. What's happened since then? The crazy, radical, lunatic, atheist, socialist numbskulls have taken over the Democrat Party. And I got to tell you right now, if you're an Hispanic guy in South Texas, if you're driving a pickup truck, if you work in the oil field, if you go bird hunting on the weekends, and these lunatics want to bankrupt you, put you out of work, put your kids out of school, and destroy your family, you're voting Republican. And in November, we are going to see South Texas turn bright red. We're going to elect not one, not two, but 3 Republican members of Congress from South Texas, all Hispanic women. Cassie Garcia, who you just heard from, is a rock star. Monica de la Cruz is a rock star. And I cannot wait to see Cassie and Monica and Myra go head-to-head with Nancy Pelosi and AOC. And say, tell me again about how good open borders are. I can't wait to see them stand up to Adam Schiff and Gerald Nadler. Please give us your wisdom. That's a short conversation. About what it's like on the southern border. We are going to see an historic shift. Between now and Election Day. I am going to be on the road virtually nonstop, campaigning all over this country. I'm campaigning to retake the Senate and help defeat Democratic senators. I'm campaigning to retake the House and throw the Democrats out of office. I'm working to raise millions of dollars for Republican challengers all over this country because together we are fighting to save the country. And when we win, when we retake America, when we turn South Texas red, it is going to be the men and women in this room, the warriors gathered like the 300 in Sparta. Although I'm glad folks are wearing their shirts. But it is you, warriors that are gathered, that are going to take this country back. So the podcast I do every week, Verdict with Ted Cruz, when we launched it, it became the #1 ranked podcast in the world. We've had over 40 million downloads. We get more viewers on Verdict than CNN gets on their morning show. So I want to ask every one of you to take out your cell phone and text the word verdict to 24005. Let me give you that to you again. Text the word verdict to 24005. You'll get back links to subscribe yourself to a podcast. Because part of what we need to do is we need to be informed, we need to be educated, we need to be mobilizing, we need to be turning people out, we need to be teaching people, we need to be shining the light, we need to be speaking the truth. And this is the remnant that will help pull this country back from the brink. When we win in November, and notice I said when, I'm looking forward in January to walking along the hallway in the United States Capitol and to bumping into a little man wearing overalls, carrying a screwdriver, coming to change the sign on Nancy Pelosi's office. And Nancy's going to get on her broom. All right, that's not right. That's not fair. Nancy is going to get on her private jet, the USS Broom, and fly back to San Francisco. Then she's going to retire to Florida. And Chuck Schumer's going to get on the Acela train and head back to New York City. And then we're going to tell Joe Biden it's 2025, and he'll just wander back to Delaware. This country is worth saving. When the socialists come, when the Marxists come, when the communists come, when those who hate America come to tear her down, when the radicals in the school board try to teach critical race theory to our kids, when they try to indoctrinate them with lies, Texans have never shrunk for a battle. And it is the men and women in this room who will rise to defend the Lone Star State and will rise to defend the United States of America. And I'm here to tell you, brighter days are coming. We will take this country back. We will defend our liberty. We will defend the Constitution. And we will restore the greatest country in the history of the world. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Texas.
Ted Cruz on fire and really speaking to a crowd that absolutely loves him and respects him. One of the best speeches that I've actually heard him give, and I think he hit all of the main points that the people wanted him to speak on, and that really made all of the difference here. I mean, Ted Cruz is the true conservative, one of the few true conservatives in the U.S. Senate, and he really has an agenda. He's consistent in everything he does, and it really kind of begs the question as to our other U.S. senator. And what's interesting now is that the state party has put out a survey and asking questions about their favorability, unfavorability of different people, like our senators and like our governor. And so I'm very interested to see the outcome of that and what that looks like. And I think that Ted Cruz is going to do very well. Frankly, his popularity is just unmatched here in the grassroots. So this is the dynamic that's so different from what you see in the mainstream press, because in the mainstream press you see people who are trying to basically demonize and vilify those who are conservative in any way. And if you want to talk about misinformation, the misinformation comes from the media, not from grassroots, not from Ted Cruz, and he highlighted the fact that the absurdity of the COVID science. How if you walk in a restaurant, you walk in with a mask and then you sit down at your table and then you can take your mask off. Or if you're on a plane, you have to wear a mask the whole time unless you have a peanut in your hand, which would suggest then that peanuts cure COVID. And he was mocking the pseudoscience, the absurdity of the quote-unquote science. And the one thing that is absolutely clear about what's happened in America is science no longer is based upon evidentiary fact. It is based upon a political agenda, and that agenda is the only thing that really matters now. So who cares about what is true when it comes to the media? Because certainly the press doesn't really care about what is true. They just want to further an agenda. And again, so you know, when you look at the who is here, when you look at the grassroots that has basically spent their time and money to come to this convention, many people from all over the state of Texas spending hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Most are spending thousands of dollars because hotels are not cheap. Gas, spending $500,000 just on gas just to be here. And why are they here? They're here to basically bolster what is important to all of us as Republicans, a limited government, a government that does not reward insanity, and that is what's happening in our government today. I want to go back to the legislative priorities. I didn't finish the list because they started the program, but I want to, and I'll go back to the program. We're about to adjourn for the morning program. And then we'll have an afternoon program somewhere around 1:30. I suspect it will be more like 1:45 or 2, just knowing how the party works. But this is, but regardless, I'll be back with you once we adjourn or once we come back. So going back to the legislative priorities, we talked about parental rights and educational freedom, protecting medical freedom, the whole issue of the right to take a vaccine or not take a vaccine. That's your right. So, you know, as Republicans, you know, we do care about people having a right over their own bodies. That's different than taking the life of a baby away. So these are two different things. All right, so they're coming back. They're reconvening. Here is Chairman Rinaldi.
I call the general meeting to order. Before we break for lunch, quick Credentials Committee report. Chair recognizes David Wiley, Chairman of the Credentials Committee.
Mr. Chairman, the Credentials Committee reports as follows. As of 10 a.m. today, the total registration for the convention is 4,739 delegates and 494 alternates. The actual voting strength is 8799. A majority of the delegates is 2370. A majority of the actual voting strength is 4,400.
Motion before you is on the adoption of the permanent roll of the convention as presented. Are you ready for the question? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adopting the permanent roll of the convention presented say aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The permanent roll has been updated.
That concludes the report.
This concludes the report of the Credentials Committee. Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Seeing no other business scheduled, we are adjourned and will reconvene for the third general meeting after lunch at 1:30 when we will elect our new Republican State Party Chairman and Vice Chairman.
Okay, so we're breaking for lunch now, and obviously some great speeches are going to be coming back to elect the State Party Chairman. Chairman Rinaldi is not. opposed, which there was some discussion about Cat Parks possibly challenging him and others, but he is running unopposed, so he's got the support of delegates and of the state. So it looks like he's going to stay in for another 2 years or 4 years. I'm not sure when. I think we elect a chair every 2 years. So I think it's for the next 2 years. Yes, it is. And then we'll. It's the vice chair race that is a little contested. That's going to have some interest, and so we'll be watching that. And so I'm going to break off now, and I hope that this has been good for you in watching, and I hope that you'll be back. We'll be back. It's scheduled 1:30, but I suspect we're going to look at 1:45, 2 o'clock, what have you, but we'll probably be back with you about 1:30 regardless. So until then, I look forward to seeing you when we get back, and I hope that you have a great afternoon or a great morning. We'll see you in a few. Bye-bye.